It was a cold February night in Moxee, Washington, a small town east of Yakima, when a lone figure stumbled down the middle of State Route 24. The clock had just struck midnight on February 1st, 1993, and the man, dressed in military fatigues and boots, moved erratically as if lost in a world of his own. He carried nothing, no bag, no wallet, no hint of who he was or why he was there, walking blindly into the path of danger. A passing motorist, alarmed by the sight, slowed down and turned around to warn others of the pedestrian on the road. But in those fleeting moments, tragedy struck. By the time the driver returned, the man lay lifeless by the roadside, the victim of an apparent hit and run. A Chevy Camaro was seen speeding away, but its driver was never identified, leaving the question of guilt unanswered. Emergency services arrived swiftly, but there was nothing they could do. The man had died from injuries consistent with being struck by a vehicle. With no identification and only the clothes on his back, he was labeled a John Doe. His body sent to the morgue as a mystery waiting to be unraveled. For over a decade, the Moxee John Doe would remain nameless, a haunting enigma in a quiet corner of Washington state. Meanwhile, over 1,600 miles away in Amarillo, Texas, another mystery was unfolding, one that would eventually converge with the lonely figure on that Washington road. In Amarillo, the evening of January 31st, 1993, should have been a joyful one. David Glenn Lewis, a 39-year-old attorney, had planned to spend it at home cheering on his beloved Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. His wife, Karen, and their daughter, Lauren, had been away on a weekend shopping trip in Dallas, leaving David to enjoy his football ritual. But when they walked through the door that Sunday night expecting the familiar sounds of the game and David's warm greeting, they were met with an unsettling stillness. The television blared the Super Bowl, the VCR still recording the action. In the kitchen, 2 turkey sandwiches sat untouched in the refrigerator, and a load of laundry hummed in the dryer. On the counter lay David's watch and wedding ring, items he rarely took off. The house bore all the signs of his presence, yet David himself was gone. Karen at first brushed it off, assuming he'd gone to watch the game with friends. But as the night wore on and he didn't return, a quiet unease settled in. The next day, Monday, February 1st, her unease turned to panic. David had missed 2 important appointments, a stark departure for a man known for his reliability. Karen contacted the police, reporting him missing, her mind racing with questions. Where had he gone? And why? To grasp the shock of David's disappearance, one must first know the man he was. Born on December 11th, 1953, in Borger, Texas, to William and Esther Lewis, David was a bright star from the start. He graduated magna cum laude from Texas Tech University in 1975 with a degree in political science, then earned his Juris Doctor there in 1979. In 1982, he married Karen Garrett, and a year later they welcomed their daughter Lauren into the world. David's career was marked by ambition and service. In 1986, he was elected judge of the Moore County Court at Law, a role he held for 4 years, before running unsuccessfully for district court judge of the 69th District. After the loss, he joined the private law firm of Buckner, Lara, and Swindle in Amarillo, where he thrived. Beyond the courtroom, David was a pillar of his community, active in his church, involved in charities, and a teacher of government at a local college. Friends and family knew him as kind, dependable, and devoted, a man who seemed to have it all. So how did this steady, contented life unravel so suddenly? The unraveling began quietly on Thursday, January 28, 1993. David left work early, telling colleagues at Buckner, Lara, and Swindle that he was feeling well. Yet his credit card told a different story. A charge at a gas station later that afternoon. That evening, he taught his government class until 10 p.m., showing no outward signs of distress. The next day, Karen and Lauren left for Dallas, unconcerned since David had eagerly planned to stay home for the Super Bowl. But over that weekend, David's actions grew bizarre. A church friend spotted him rushing through a Southwest Airlines terminal, luggage-free and frantic. On Sunday, his red Ford Explorer was seen parked outside the Potter County Courthouse, where a deputy sheriff observed a man matching David's description photographing the vehicle. Neighbors confirmed his car was in the driveway at some point, proving he'd returned home. Yet when Karen and Lauren arrived that evening, they found the eerie scene of a house alive with David's traces, but not David. The police investigation uncovered more oddities. Someone using David's name had bought 2 plane tickets, one from Dallas to Amarillo on January 31st and another from Los Angeles to Dallas on February 1st. In 1993, domestic flights didn't require ID, leaving it unclear if David himself made the purchases. A $5,000 deposit appeared in the family's bank account on January 30th. Its source a mystery. His Explorer was found near the courthouse, keys under the mat, driver's license, credit cards, and checkbook inside. Karen noticed only one item missing from home, a pair of David's green sweatpants. A cab driver later reported driving a nervous man resembling David to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport on February 1st, paid in cash from a wad of $100 bills. After that, David vanished from Amarillo's sight. Karen and David's loved ones insisted he hadn't left willingly. She revealed he'd received death threats during his time as a judge, and they had resurfaced just before he disappeared. David had been excited for Lauren's upcoming birthday and was discussing future career plans, hardly the profile of a man planning to flee. Yet there was a shadow. David was a defendant in a conflict of interest lawsuit with other attorneys and a former client. He was due to be deposed last, but vanished before it happened, taking all related paperwork with him. Despite the family's abduction theory, police found no evidence of foul play. Karen's refusal to take a polygraph strained ties with investigators, though her reasons remained private. Authorities leaned toward a voluntary exit, perhaps driven by hidden pressures. In 2002, with leads exhausted, they closed the case. Back in Moxee, the John Doe lay unidentified until 2003, when the Seattle Post-Intelligencer Without a Trace series spurred action. Washington State Patrol Detective Pat Ditter revisited cold cases, including the Moxee hit and run. Searching online, he found David Glenn Lewis' missing persons file. The resemblance was uncanny, but one detail nagged. David wore glasses, and the John Doe had none. Then Ditter checked the stored clothing and found a pair of glasses in a pocket, distinctive ones matching David's. A 2004 DNA test confirmed it. The Moxee John Doe was David Glenn Lewis. The identification answered who but not how or why. How did David travel 1,600 miles to Moxee? Why was he in military fatigues, which Karen swore he didn't own? Why was he walking down a road at night, glasses in his pocket despite poor eyesight? Theories swirled, abduction tied to the threats or lawsuit, a secret life unraveling, suicide as some investigators suggested, or a rare dissociative fugue where he lost himself and wandered far from home. No drugs or alcohol clouded his system, deepening the puzzle. Karen and friends held firm that he was taken, rejecting suicide. Authorities saw a man who'd walked away only to meet a tragic end. The truth, though, remains out of reach. David's obituary mourned a man whose love and devotion have been missed so very much, a soul who touched so many lives but left many dreams unfulfilled. His story is a haunting blend of stability and chaos. A life extinguished on a lonely road, leaving a mystery that lingers like a shadow, unseen, unsolved, and unforgettable.